Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the Cardinals, are going streaking. My name is Nate Heininger, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host.
I love when you play act an opening, Nate. It really makes my day.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 847. Wait. What is it? How did I've said it 1,000 times. What is our number?
482.
848. 848. 48
Jesus
birds.
Christ.
There we go. Wow. If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848 48 birds. Hambone, it's been quite a week. I don't know how many times we've had it where the Cardinals have won every game in between an episode. But pretty fun. I guess probably the last time was back in our first year of redoing the show in 2022 with the 17-game win streak. Yeah. So I got to say, Marmol, you better look out.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to complain about. I have nothing to gripe about. I guess this is going to be a really short episode. Maybe we'll have to celebrate some things for once.
Mike Schilt, 17-game win streak, out a few weeks later.
Yeah. Well,
Marmol, look out.
Marmol would never disagree with John Mozeliak, though.
That's a good point. But Hambone, before we get into this really fun week of Cardinal baseball, another Cardinal related thing that we just have to talk about. The Cardinals got together. We got ourselves a new pope. How you feeling about the new pope, Hambone? There's a baseball related element to this.
Yeah. Yeah. Who cares, Nate? I don't give a shit about this. I'm not Catholic. I don't care.
But I saw Conclave, so now I care.
Conclave is good,
right?
Conclave is good. Everybody's talking about how good Conclave is. They went in there. Ray Fiennes, however you say that guy's name.
Wow.
He made it.
Ray
Fiennes made an impassioned argument for morality and looking towards the future. And what do you know? We got a 70-year-old white guy from Illinois. So boom, let's go.
We did it, folks. The low-hanging fruit joke here then is that at least, as a Chicago White Sox, at least he knows White Sox fan, at least he knows suffering. So that's good.
That's what we want.
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah. No, I think I think that
I'm working on my Jay Leno style topical
I think
bits.
America deserves a pope right now.
If any place does, it's about damn time we got ourselves an American pope.
It's about damn time. There couldn't be a better guy for it. The picture of him at the 05 World Series was going around, and he really looked like a Chicagoan. So I'm glad that he's, in a very high leadership position for a huge part of the world.
It's a baseball pope.
Baseball pope. It's a real home run, if you ask me. I think that actually I'm turning back on what I said earlier. This really matters. This is good. This is what we need right now.
Manfred did it again.
We are saved by the Pope and Rob Manfred. They can do no wrong. They obviously are looking out for us. I'm sure that those guys are going to help us even more. I think it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the baseball Pope that has brought in this new Cardinal.
Do you think you think he likes his Italian beef dipped or dry, Nate? Because if he likes it dry, I think we should execute him or not execute him. Get him out of his office.
Yeah, I think we should execute the Pope because he likes a dry beef.
I think that's you got. We're asking the baseball questions, but how does he like his beef? I think is a more important question.
As a Chicago guy, you gotta like it wet.
You gotta like it wet. Dip
Maybe
that thing.
Maybe a little sport pepper there. Maybe.
I know what I'm having for lunch. Yeah, I don't care. Who cares? I hope may he reign for as long as he lives.
May his reign of terror last a decade.
Well, I learned recently that a lot of popes are really not around for that long from your stupid game that you made me play.
Well, yeah, I mean, when your candidate pool is he's young as a pope at 69 or 70 years old. When your candidate pool is pulling straight from the Catholic nursing home, you're not going to last a long time.
Have you watched that show, The New Pope, on HBO?
No, a lot of pope content. No, I've not
Why are
seen
people
the
so
new
into pope?
Well, I mean, we all saw this coming, right? Like, and within the next 15 years, there'll probably be another pope.
Enclave too.
You know, so I don't know. The reckoning. No, I've engaged in very little pope content until the last couple weeks when I watched Conclave, and then I saw Sinners, which is like an opposite movie, but it was also a lot of fun.
Yeah, two good movies, two very different movies, two hard R movies. Oh wait, no, I guess Conclave. There's nothing really happening in Conclave, but I enjoyed it.
No, my only take on Sinners is needed more Michael B. Jordan.
2 more, 3 more. Why don't you make the whole airplane out of Michael B. Jordan's?
Michael B. Jordan. Seriously, he could have done
all the way
probably.
down. Yeah.
Also, way hornier of a film than I thought it was going to be.
We need more movies like that. I can't stand it. We need more adult movies.
There's a few websites that might pique your interest if you're really interested in that sort of thing.
That's not what I'm saying,
You
Nathan.
documentaries.
I'm not some kind of internet pervert.
Yeah. Yeah. You just want your movies hornier. I get it.
I do think movies should be hornier. I staunchly say that. Yeah. Like all these Marvel movies where like no one even like there's like not even a kiss. Like what are we doing here? Bunch of sexless robots walking around killing each other.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, sexless behemoths just walking around causing insane collateral damage.
Don't like it.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's go back to talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, it's been a fun week. Like, I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself because I think back to last year when the Cardinals were the best team in baseball in May and ended May in first place, and we all know how that season ended. But as far as just being a fan of the team and enjoying watching baseball, can't be upset at all about this. It's been so much fun, and there's a lot of good things under the hood on this team. Is it sustainable? We'll see. We're recording Wednesday as the doubleheader starts, so the streak may or may not be concluded. By the time this episode comes out, but regardless, it's been a lot of fun. I don't know. What do you want to talk about first, Hambo?
Yeah, I mean, 9 games in a row, Nate, it's the longest winning streak in baseball right now. I know the Royals had a nice little hot streak. I think the Twins might also be on a hot streak right now. So the various Central teams are really doing their thing, which is kind of fun. Obviously the weakest divisions in either part of baseball. But I think what's really fun is that through these 9 wins, we talked about this early in the season, a good week of baseball can really change your outlook on the rest of the season, especially with the NL Central where it is so tight. And, even before this win streak, the Cardinals were really not that far back of the Cubbies or the Reds or whoever was in front of them at that time. On May 1st, the Cardinals had a 12% chance of making the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. Sitting here today on Wednesday, again, before these Phillies games are done, we are now sitting at a 31% chance to make the playoffs. And obviously that's the highest it's been all season. That's the highest it's been for a while. A 1/3 chance of making the playoffs is pretty exciting. When you look at what's going around with the rest of the division, the Cubs obviously have some major injuries that they're dealing with. They're also dealing with Kyle Tucker having a really great season and Seiya Suzuki starting to get hot and some other good things going their way. But these teams are all looking pretty flat and pretty even right now. If the Cardinals can differentiate themselves, and if it's just a hot streak and then kind of playing slightly above 500 baseball for the rest of the year, you can see how you can stumble your way into the playoffs. And, as we always say, you just got to get there. Will the Phillies or Dodgers trample you once you show up? Probably. But the Roki Sasaki just went down. They're running out of pitchers, Nate. We just beat the Phillies. I mean,
yeah,
anything could happen.
they're about to have a 3-man rotation over there on the Dodgers, which is insane. I mean, you can see their strategy of stacking all the very best injury-prone pitchers in baseball. They're probably thinking like, oh, surely we'll probably lose one of Snell or Glass now, but probably not both. And certainly Roki will be, I mean, there's some underlying concerns, but he'll probably be good. And he's down, and they're just losing everybody. Dustin May, though, is looking pretty good. So they're still pretty stacked. But we talk too much about the Dodgers on this show. We're talking fun stuff about the Cardinals right now. I do think it's interesting. They're one game back of the NL Central. And even with that, it is a 31% chance, which basically is saying like they've got to win the Central. Yeah. And probably the Cubs are a better team, but one game back, they don't play the Cubs until June, which is crazy. So those will be interesting series. We'll see what it looks like when we're actually playing the Cubs directly. Your biggest chance to differentiate in the standings. I think it's
when you're looking at these projection systems, like they're not going to be kind to players like Victor Scott or Lars Nootbaar or even Brendan Donovan. Two of those guys have missed significant time over the past couple of years. Victor Scott doesn't have a track record. Those are three of your most prominent players on this team, not to mention what's happening defensively throughout the rest of the team. Off the bench we've had some really nice production. Projection systems aren't going to pick up on that. If those players can keep having a decent year, if Mason Wynn can continue to establish himself as a real big leaguer in his sophomore year, I mean, you're going to beat those projection systems because there's no way they can take into account what's happening right now. Now, do I think Victor Scott can do this all year? I do. It's going to be difficult, and he's going to have to adjust and keep playing really good defense, but it doesn't seem totally out of pocket for that to happen. And I think that it forces you to ask the question, what if the transition year is just a competitive year? Like, what if the Cardinals are just fighting for the NL Central this year and nobody's really taking it away from them? What do you start to do with the team?
Well, to be fair to Mo and Co., this is kind of what they've been saying, that they didn't want to tear it all down. They thought they had a chance in 2025. This is ostensibly why Eric Fetty is still on this team, why Ryan Helsley is still on this team. And we said it ourselves, there is an outcome here where a bunch of these players take the next step and your veterans do what you expect them to do. This team should be competitive in the Central against other mid-high level teams. And that's kind of exactly what's happening. We're not getting the step-ups where we thought we were going to get them from. I think probably you and I both would have said that a successful 2025 goes through a Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman route. Yeah. But instead, it's Ivan Herrera, Victor Scott, Matthew Liberatore, and then the veterans we'll talk about them in a minute, but this has really been driven by some good veteran play. But the young guys stepping up were not the ones we thought they were going to be. The veterans are doing pretty well. This was always a little bit in the cards. We called it 90th percentile outcome. I got to reiterate that this is a hot streak. Who knows? It's a long season. But this is what a competitive Cardinal team is going to look like this year if it sustains. I don't know. We'll see. It's fun while it lasts. I think
putting a little water on it does make sense to say this is a hot streak. It's really easy to get excited about this team this week and a half of baseball behind them. Of course, they literally have not lost. But to what you're saying though is like, you and I think everyone listening expected Ivan Herrera to get better this season and to do something impressive this year. We expected Lars Nootbaar, if he was healthy, to put together a really nice year. Victor Scott clearly has stepped up his game. We expect Mason Wynn to be that guy. We expect Brendan Donovan to be that guy. And then, like you said, the veterans doing veteran things with Nolan Arenado and Wilson Contreras. Like, this is the expectation.
Sonny Gray.
You expect them to put Sonny Gray. We haven't talked about Sonny Gray enough this season yet. He is just steady Eddie and really good. But It makes a lot of sense. And they're going to take their lumps, and they're probably going to have like a 4-game losing streak here, like maybe starting today as we're recording. But you expect these guys to get better. They're young. Even Herrera is 25 years old. You expect him to become a better baseball player right now. And my God, that opposite field home run he hit against the Phillies the other night was very fun. That was a low line drive that snuck over a decently high wall.
Yeah.
Nice exit velo.
Hasn't missed a beat.
We can
really,
talk about the efficacy of having really 4 catchers on your team, but technically only 3.
You gotta have 4 catchers. See that? I think that's been the problem. Hambone is that I've been calling for a 3 catcher team for a while now, and the Cardinals have been playing around with that, but it's really the 4 catcher team is it's like having 4 Michael B. Jordans in your movie. You gotta have 4 catchers. You just sprinkle them all around the field.
Can Pozo play right field, do you think? He's got an arm back there, right?
Probably.
My biggest
that's where
they stick is that they can't all play at the same time right now, because obviously Herrera's not catching yet. He's DHing. You're going to have Pages behind the plate because he's got that glove and the framing. Where do you find time for Pozo? It's Mo's got to figure this out. And if it's trading Mason Wynn to make room, then it's trading Mason Wynn
to put
make
Pozo
room.
at short. Don't look into his background. The Pozo,
okay.
This is a Pozo-centric team now. Okay.
How we get through the Central is riding Pozo's back.
It's
So I mean, I think like I'm kind of the opinion. Well, I guess like macro level, I'm of the opinion that if you have a chance to make the playoffs, then you take that chance, even if you are forfeiting the future a little bit. It doesn't always happen. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that these guys are going to be healthy next year. If it goes this way, we're being very, very optimistic right now. But you don't know. Maybe everything goes to absolute shit next year. So I think if this year is going to be the year, go for it. Trade. Make your team better. Talk about what you do with the Jordan Walker or Nolan Gorman who aren't performing right now. I think that's an easier decision than making a trade. But I am very much of the opinion that if you have a chance to get to the playoffs, you take the chance. You maybe don't go all in and completely leverage your future for it, but you owe it to the guys, you owe it to the fans, and you owe it to yourself to at least try.
Yeah, I always get torn on that because we've seen the Rays do some things that like are pretty smart from a hard line optimization standpoint. I think it was either last year or the year before. They were like 3 or 4 games above 500, and they sold heavy at the trade deadline, even though they were a very competitive team.
And that's,
but they're obviously in a different
I
situation.
think that's what it comes down to. Not only are they more financially hamstrung than the St. Louis Cardinals, but they are fighting the likes of, Boston, New York, Baltimore, which is normally better than what they're doing now. And even Toronto. I mean, just any one of those teams, actually, maybe not this year, but a chunk of those teams would probably win the Central. Maybe, I don't know. I can't decide if the Cubs are good or not. Obviously, they're playing well right now.
They just called up Moises Ballesteros. Have you seen this guy?
I haven't seen this guy. Tell me about this guy.
5'8" catcher. He is we've talked about him a little bit, I think, on the show. He's the sort of the Alejandro Kirk,
5'8", 195.
Williams,
okay, yeah.
Williams Astudillo, maybe the peak version of this, but dude can rake. I mean, he's been one of the best hitters in the minors for quite a while now. So I don't quite know what their use for him is going to be yet.
He was in AAA. He was hitting 368 with a 522 slug. That's that'll get it done. That's not bad.
Yeah, and we like the short kings of the league. They're easy to sort of make fun of, or at least say like it's rarely successful. But 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", you're talking Jose Ramirez, Corbin Carroll, Mookie Betts. There's a lot of guys, different body type. They're not quite as square as this man, but the height thing isn't always is a limiting factor as you might think. And then obviously Altuve is a true outlier, but you can do it. But he basically has no real position. He's not even considered that good of a catcher. But he hits so well that they're obviously, they're going
according to Roster Resource, he's going to be their DH at least against right-handed pitching. So I guess we'll see him and see what that looks like. Something funny, I saw this on MLB Network. They were talking about Jose Altuve, obviously short king, obviously probably probably a Hall of Famer. He stands further up in the box than anybody in MLB by it's 6 or 7 inches or something like that, which I thought was very interesting. I wonder if it's because he has a harder time reaching the ball because his short little arms, or why that is, but I just thought that was fascinating.
I've always heard if you're trying to get ahead of the break when you're closer in the box, and maybe just his swing path.
Like everyone else, and then a huge gap in Jose Altuve. Yeah. So I don't have any analysis for this. I just thought it was kind of wild.
Yeah, that's interesting. Matt Shaw is doing well in the minors again, so I expect they'll have him up again pretty soon. And Pete Crow Armstrong looks like one of the best players in baseball now.
Cade Horton also just got called up, and he's nothing to sneeze at. A really good starting pitcher. So see how those youngsters do.
Yeah.
Can PCA do it all year?
And the Reds just lost Hunter Green, which is huge for them.
That stinks.
And it does stink. I really like Hunter Green. And the Brewers are kind of doing what we thought they might. They've been kind of middle of the road too. So yeah, it's May 14th. We're still super early in the season, but it certainly is nice to watch some winning baseball and to have some of it go through some of these young guys. If Walker and Gorman aren't it, at least it sure seems like Victor Scott is, and Liberatore is, and Ivan Herrera is, and you can start to plug those in with some of the other guys on the team and think, all right, this could be a pretty competitive team. But of course, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about who are we selling in July, right? So your point of the standings can change in a week is very true. So a couple quick news items that happened before we get more into the play. We all know we've already talked about Ivan Herrera is up, and the Cardinals optioned Hambone's brother, Luken Baker, is been optioned to Memphis. How you feeling about it, Hambone?
Obviously, the team needs to have 3 catchers on the squad.
Four
Technically, but 3 active catchers on the squad. So it's hard for me to argue with the demotion of Luken Baker. I guess I'm curious. We don't really know when is Ivan Herrera going to be able to actually catch. I agree with the general thought that if he can swing and his knee is not at a point where he can catch, then he should be up here and he should be DHing, because I do think he is that next level type of hitter. We've seen the power. He's clearly got the best power numbers on the team right now. I don't know if that's his game or if he's just had a hot start or what. We'll find out as the season goes on. So for this very specific time of the Cardinals and Ivan Herrera's knee health, I think it's fine. I think it makes sense. You don't want to have Pages get hit with an injury and force Ivan Herrera to go catch when his knee is barking. You want to keep him healthy and going as well as possible. And clearly the Cardinals have no interest in putting Wilson Contreras behind home plate either. So you kind of have to do this. You kind of have to have Nolan Gorman on the team because you're supposed to be figuring out what the hell Nolan Gorman is, even though he's not really been playing that much right now.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about the reasons why you have Jose Barrero on the bench. He's looked good in center. He's looked good in at short. I think his bat might be a little all or nothing, but he's a plus defensive player. So it leaves Luken Baker on the outside. And I think ideally you move Luken Baker back up when you can send down Pozo and Ivan Herrera is catching again. But we don't know when that's going to be or if it is even going to make sense. But obviously I don't like the lack of positional flexibility. And I think the maybe the biggest problem with the current arrangement of the team is how do you find time for Alec Burleson, who was just kind of starting to get he was digging himself out of that hole that he had in the early parts of the season. Obviously, Herrera has to hit over Burleson, though. He's just been better.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes, you look at your bench, you have Burleson, Gorman, Pozo. It's like kind of, not the most dynamic group you've ever seen is, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I agree. It made sense to send Baker down, kind of the obvious choice given the options. To be fair to him, the power wasn't there, but everything else in his skill set was shown. And across 41 plate appearances, he had a 106 WRC plus. So he was, while it was minor, he was an above average hitter at the major league level. Just didn't really feel that way, I think, watching it, because we didn't see any of the light tower power we want to see from a guy like that. But a 366 OBP,
I mean,
that's going to pay the bills.
I think major league pitchers were kind of afraid of Luken Baker. He was rocking a 17% walk rate, and he's got 2 seconds in the bigs. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe it's just the visual of Luken Baker up there at the plate that makes you like, I'm not grooving this guy anything. But yeah, I do think it's a crime how little they used him. This guy I want to see. Just give me 100 at-bats in a row. Like, I just want to see this kid given a chance. I believe in him. He should probably be on another team because I think he could start for a lot of clubs. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, we're a month and a half away from July, and then that's when trade talks really start to, pick up.
How bad could the Mariners use a Luken Baker?
They need, I don't know. It's easy to point to that stadium because you're like, how their offense should be good. So why isn't it? But yeah.
Well, I think Luken Baker is one of those players that could still hit it out of Seattle's ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
I mean, Cal Raleigh can do it. They're similarly.
Dude, he's having a monster year already too, which is fun.
Good. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day of is Cal Raleigh, is he on a Hall of Fame track? I'm like, Mariners Hall of Fame. But he's a good player. He's a very good player.
He's young and he's hitting a ton of dingers. So if he can keep it going, as a catcher, maybe. It's way too early to have that conversation. Yeah. But
this guy's a Mariners fan, so you can get a sense of how Mariners fans are feeling about Cal Raleigh right now. He's fun.
Wouldn't you be? I mean, what
his nickname? Everything. Good defender.
Oh,
it's all good.
They're selling little dumplings there now. They got little dumpers to go with the big dumper.
Preaching to the choir, my friend.
Well, hey, speaking of team Hall of Fames, Matt Carpenter announced his retirement.
Yeah.
This first ballot Cardinal Hall of Fame, right? Yeah. Yeah, we love Matt Carpenter. Maybe a Yankee Hall of Famer too for that 3-week period where he was better than Babe Ruth.
216 WRC plus in 2022 over 47 games with the New York Yankees. In those 47 games, he put up 2.5 WAR, according to Fangraphs.
Yeah, absolutely incredible and looking good too. Luigi looking mustache, the whole thing.
Just to gush over Matt Carpenter, I think that he's probably properly rated in Cardinals fandom. But I almost think at larger, like at baseball in general, he's probably a little bit underrated. At his peak, he had some really, really amazing years. And one of my favorite Cardinals players' years of all time was his 2014 year. That was the year that he hit 55 doubles. He kind of it really established himself in my eyes as this guy who could, kind of play wherever they put him. Sorry, is his 2013 year? I got mixed up. His 2013. Okay, that's what I was gonna say. It was 55 doubles. He had a 146 WRC plus. He was playing all over the field. He's getting a little into his power. He's walking at 10%. Just one of my favorite years from a guy that really, we had no expectations. He was kind of Lars Nootbaar, this kind of nothing prospect that turned himself into a really, really productive player. He put up 7.2 WAR that year, and was, an MVP level player.
It was also, I remember, in the World Series that year, with Beltran going, maybe it was the year before. I know he got to come into some playoff games and like really and do well there too. So anyway, awesome guy. And we all liked him as a player too, just as like a leader on the team. There was the salsa thing, he was like the center of the team on a team with some major stars on it. Matt Holliday, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright. Carp really was the spark plug. Hambone. When you say he was a spark plug.
Dude, why are you trying to nail me down on this? He was a spark plug.
Yes or no? Yes or no,
stop.
Hambone. Matt Carpenter.
Leave me alone. Here's a kind of fun thing for Cardinals fans. He earned $101 million during his big league career. He, according to Fangraphs value, he provided $244 million worth of player value over his career. So just shows you how good he was for the Cardinals, how valuable of a player he was. And yeah, I love him. Love the beard. Love the stash. Love the no batting gloves. Love a Carp.
Love a Carp. Yeah, you came to expect those like line drives, short swing right down the line. That just seemed like he did every game. And with 55 in a year, almost felt like it was every single game. All right, let's dig into some of the play of the last week. So we've been talking a lot about the young guys to start this, Ivan Herrera and whatnot. But a lot of this success over the last week really has been driven by Wilson Contreras and Nolan Arenado, which is great. You and I, from the very beginning, were telling everybody, stop talking about Contreras as a problem. It will come around. Yep. This is the guy we should be the least worried about on the team. Just give it a little time. Anyone can be good or bad over 50 plate appearances. And when you know it, here we go. Contreras sure seems back, and he's playing pretty good first base too. So it's been a lot of fun to see him swinging well again.
I think his first base play has been not talked about enough. He made a great play in this Phillies series earlier where he dove to his right. He's quick for a first baseman. He's obviously got an arm, but I think he is, he's got that like catcher's mentality where he is just getting down and dirty, and he's just a tough player.
He flips the hat off. He's laying out. He's rolling around over there. He's having a good time.
And it's a lot of fun. He's been an above average first baseman, which is wild to think of. We were talking about Javi Baez in the bird scored. It's like I think some people are just good defenders, and you could pretty much put them in. They just like either understand how the ball is going to fly, or they understand how to catch it. They understand something that most people don't. And I kind of think Wilson Contreras is one of those guys where you could probably play him anywhere and he'd figure it out pretty quickly. Maybe he doesn't have the speed for the outfield, but just watching him play first base is really impressive. And him making those plays that, a lot of guys can't make has been fun.
Yeah, and we're also, we've had the last 5 years of Goldschmidt, who's also, we all know, an incredible first baseman, but just does it in such a Goldschmidt style way of just everything, just another day at the office, just, kind of, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to do it well. And, you might not even notice how good of a play that was, but Contreras is like just such a more energetic first baseman.
Well, was always funny about watching Goldschmidt is he'd make a play and then he'd look down and kick the rock underneath his foot and wait for the pitcher. It's like, oh my God. So, this is really early in the season and defensive metrics are kind of squishy, but for what it's worth, according to Fangraphs defensive WAR metric, the best first baseman in baseball right now is Matt Olson. The second is Carlos Santana. Number 3 is Wilson Contreras.
Pretty good.
Wild.
Pretty good company too. Carlos Santana obviously able to stay in the league for a very long time. He's not particularly relevant right now, but he's been a first baseman in baseball for 15 years now. Also that hit single with Rob Thomas, pretty good. That thing has legs.
Stupid joke. Also
It is a
former
very
catcher.
stupid joke, but Matt Olson, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so Wilson Contreras, not only is he doing that at first base, he has a 220 WRC plus in the month of May, which pretty good. And then
Pretty good.
Nolan Arenado, who you mentioned, he's got a 137 WRC plus and is once again looking like the best third baseman in baseball, which has been a ton of fun. But I think kind of to your point, like having your highest paid best players, one a Hall of Famer and one a Hall of Very Good, kind of leading the team during this win streak makes it feel a little more real. And it's a little more fun because it's been hard to have that over the past couple of years, or hard to find that over the past couple of years.
Well, yeah, the last year and a half, I'll say 23 and 24, were kind of marked by one of or both of Goldschmidt and Arenado not being particularly good. And given their status on the team, both from a payroll and just veteran and all the earned status and whatnot, they were always in the heart of the lineup. And it's really hard to have a sustained good offense when the heart of your lineup is not very good. So this is what it looks like when two of your best hitters are playing very, very well. You are stacking offense, and they've got the pieces around them to be on base and provide those run scoring opportunities. So the nice thing about this, like I'm a little, Arenado, he had a really extended slump. So I'm still a little like, okay, is he fully back? Is this a hot streak? What are we going to get out of Arenado? I'm hopeful that this is a full like comeback and we'll have a full good season of him, but it's a little more like wait and see. Contreras, I'm just not worried about at all. Now, will he be 220 WRC plus? No, probably not, but that's the nature of variance and how these things tend to happen. But I feel pretty confident that he's going to be maybe the best hitter on the team the rest of the way, which is saying a lot when you've got like a Herrera and a Brendan Donovan and all that around.
We've seen him do this before where Wilson Contreras can kind of get hot and do that thing where he hits the ball hard to all fields and do it for a while. We've seen him do, in a couple of years with the Cardinals that hasn't been great. Was it in 23 where the Cardinals kind of stumbled to the offseason, and he had like 2.5 months of really solid hitting. And again, I'm going to say the thing, like he's not having to catch. He's not having to squat for 9 innings. He's not having to game plan with pitchers. He's focused on hitting and defense over at first. Maybe those things can be a little longer. Maybe he can be a little more successful. Maybe we're tapping into a little more offense. And I kind of think, especially with him being off his old position, who knows what we're going to see for the rest of the year with Wilson Contreras.
Well, it's also, there's just an opportunity element to it too. Like, he normally sits around 400 to 450 plate appearances, and I would expect him to be around 550 to 650 this year, and just a highly talented offensive player, giving them an extra 100 plate appearances to 200 plate appearances. Like that should just result in probably career high, everything, right? Maybe not rate stats, batting average, on base, things like that. But the counting stats, like, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't set all new career highs just by nature of the exposure, which is the whole point of this whole thing, right? Get your best bat in the lineup every day. And it's kind of a natural evolution for almost every catcher who can hit, right? Like most of them don't catch into their mid 30s. It happens, but the vast majority of heavy hitting catchers transition in their, around 30 to 32 or 30 or so.
Yeah, it just, and it makes sense. Yadier Molina, obviously he kind of turned into a contact hitting defensive specialist at the end of his career. Joe Mauer went the other way, It's kind of how do your skills translate? But very excited about this Wilson Contreras guy. I think he might be good.
He might be good. You put together a set of stats that kind of peek behind the hood a little bit to say that maybe these Cardinals are actually pretty good and maybe sustainably good. You want to?
I think
you want to run through these.
I think we've talked about it a little bit, but it needs to be shouted from the rooftops of how good this Cardinals defense actually is. I mean, now again, and I'll preface this again with defensive stats are squishy, and it's still early in the year. but we can only go off of what we have so far. The Cardinals are leading the league in outs above average, defensive WAR according to Fangraphs, range, runs saved, and are second in DRS. The only team that's above them on the defensive run saved rating according to Fangraphs is the Texas Rangers. But the Cardinals are first in all of those other categories. Arenado is back to being the best defensive third baseman in baseball. I think his numbers are tied right around with who's the kid in Pittsburgh? I can't think of his name. Brian Hayes, who is a wizard over there. But if you look and you dive into it, him and Brian Hayes are sitting right at the same metrics. Wynn and Donovan have also been some of the best up the middle. Brendan Donovan is rated by many metrics as a top 3 defensive second baseman this year, which I think we've talked about that this is his preferred destination. He's a fine outfielder, but he's a really good second baseman. The numbers are bearing that out.
Yeah.
And just like last year, Mason Wynn, if anything, he's even a little better this year. So having most of your infield, we were just gushing about Wilson Contreras' defensive play at first base. Really all of your infield being plus players, the speed of Victor Scott, the step forward for Jordan Walker, and I think we all know what to expect from Lars Nootbaar, a pretty good outfielder. It's been one of the best defenses in baseball, and by some metrics, it's not even that close. Like outs above average, they're pacing everyone. It's been an impressive performance, and it obviously keeps close games closer. It makes your pitchers look better. It makes baseball easier to catch the ball. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we're seeing some pitchers continue to sustain some numbers that you wouldn't quite expect them to do. We talked about Kyle Leahy a couple of weeks ago.
Still doing it.
He's still doing it. He's still doing it. He's got one of the highest left on base percentage. And those things are easier to do. I know it's cliche. Everyone knows this, but your defense makes your pitching so much better. And with a team that has questionable pitching. I think this is a huge reason why we're all sitting here going, the starting rotation isn't that bad. It's pretty good, right? Like it's actually better than we expected. Is it better than we expected, or is just the defense so good that it's really saving a lot of things? It's impossible to really know. But there's some things you can peek at under the hood that would maybe say that's the case. But
once the season's over, I think we can talk about it a little more definitively. I think what's exciting though is that defense is one of those things that doesn't tend to slump and doesn't tend to dramatically change over the season unless people get hurt, of course. But it seems like, we're a good chunk of the way through the season. Seems like the Cardinals might just have a really, really good defense, and that's something that you should expect to be there for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. I don't get too caught up in tradition and that sort of thing, but for longtime Cardinal fans, it's always been defense is a core part of a good Cardinal team. And they certainly, probably not on purpose, but the results were that the Cardinals got very far away from that for a few years. And it is just nice to see a return to, crisp baseball, right? Like not a team just bumbling around out there, running into each other, dropping balls left and right, but actually making plays.
Yeah. Jordan Walker made a play in the Phillies series where he came out of nowhere to rob a ball. I think it was off Nick Castellanos' bat, kind of in right center. Victor Scott wasn't getting there, and Jordan Walker came out of nowhere. And just seeing that wouldn't happen last year. It would have been either drop ball or Michael Ciani or who knows. But yeah, the team it makes life a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Another fun thing over the last week, Eric Fetty, wouldn't you know it, complete game shutout against the Nationals. and you think the Nationals, if you're not super paying attention, they're not a really good team, and they're not. But the thing about them, maybe the only good part about their team is they've got some legitimate bats in that lineup. James Wood, CJ Abrams look like two Hall of Fame pace guys themselves, possibly. And there's some pieces around them that support that. So it's not like he went out and demolished the Pirates or the Marlins or something like that. Like, this is a middle of the pack offense, and a complete game shutout is a complete game shutout, kind of regardless of who you throw it against.
I completely agree with that point. That doesn't happen. This is his first in the big leagues. And he's been around for a little while. I think what's really nice about this is that not only did he go all 9, he only gave up 6 hits. He had 8 strikeouts, not a single walk. We have been talking about it. That has been the biggest problem for Fetty, is these free passes. He had some really rough games earlier this season where he was giving up quite a few, but he stuck around the zone. His pitches looked really nice. That slider was looking deadly. But it really comes down to not walking guys. If he can stay in the zone and stay effective and stick around, maybe we've turned a point. Maybe something clicked in with him. Maybe he was motivated because it was his ex-team. I don't know. But it was a great start, obviously. And, of course, it came after us kind of criticizing him and questioning him. So it's nice to see that turnaround.
Well, we really put the screws to these guys.
Oh, he
you
listens.
Know what I mean? Like,
he listens.
We put the pressure that the other teams are, or the people around him are too afraid to put on him, and we call him Eric Fetty and stuff like that, and and it really motivates him in a way that
we get it. He gets it. We get it. They all get it. Yeah.
We get it. We did it.
I'll say
I did
one other
it.
thing to say about that start is the changeup was maybe the best I've ever seen it out of his hand. It was darting in on right-handed pitchers, hitters, which was a lot of fun. But I'm glad he finally listened to us. I'm glad he finally manned up, rubbed some dirt on it and got out there and threw 9.
Yeah. About damn time, Eric. All right. I know you mentioned it earlier and you wanted to touch on Sonny Gray for a moment, who has kind of just been the quiet, steady ace of the team. Not necessarily always the best results, but the process has been there and the results are starting to follow. So what are you seeing out of Sonny Gray?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to say other than that he is arguably the best player on the team, definitely the best pitcher on the team. And I just feel like we haven't talked about him enough. But in the month of May, he's had 2 starts. He's averaging over almost 30% strikeouts against his opponents. He's walking right around 3 per 9. His xFIP, his FIP, his left on base, everything looks really good. If anything, his BABIP is higher than you would expect it to be. So he's probably actually overperforming all of his numbers, or underperforming all of his numbers. I just think we need to take a moment and recognize how good Sonny Gray is. And, if this team is going to make a push this year, which, would be fun now that we're talking about it so much, like Sonny Gray is going to be a huge part of that. And he's your day one starter. Having Sonny Gray,
right? Like
Matthew Liberatore, and if Eric Fetty is figuring stuff out at the top of your rotation, that looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll love to see it.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. All right, let's end this segment. This was talked about in the Bird Scored. We've a couple times now, we've called someone out. We've talked about where they're struggling and they turn it around. And it's time we give that TAB bump to Jordan Walker. Let's dig in a little bit. We've been talking about the slump, and I know done a little bit of research to try to diagnose the problem, and I think there's a lot of problems, but we've centered around a thesis here. So Hambone, why don't you take it?
And I want to shout out my buddy Dylan texted me and he said, at what point do we start lowering our expectations for Jaywalk? And I think that's an interesting thing to talk about as well, and maybe we can talk about that. But I think, to disagree with Dylan a little bit, I'm not there yet. I think it's relevant that, we talked about the numbers a couple of weeks ago where he's still hitting the ball hard. His launch angle is still good. Like I said, average exit velocity, it's not all bad. The problem is he can't make a good decision right now. He is making bad decisions at the plate over and over. And I have some numbers to illustrate that. And I'm about to vomit numbers all over you, so hold on for that.
Great. I'm wearing my big sheet, my big plastic sheet, like I'm in the front row at a
I'm thinking, you
Gallagher
remember
show.
that scene in Team America World Police where he goes out to the alleyway?
And just pukes
That's
for
about
like
to happen right now.
far too long. Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right. Pitchers are throwing Jordan Walker 48% strikes, which is the 20th lowest in MLB. So out of all MLB hitters that have qualified, pitchers are avoiding him in the zone almost the most. So he's the 20th in baseball. And they're kind of all lumped around there. You can kind of imagine that. But out of all offensive players, you can imagine that's very low.
Now, is that because they're afraid of the damage he's going to do, or maybe it's because of something else? What do you think?
That's what a great leading question, Nathan. He also has the 7th worst contact rate in MLB at 68%. 7th worst, Nathan. 68% sounds okay, but obviously it is not. He is one of the worst in baseball at swinging and making contact. So, of course, why would you throw him anything? Why is this happening? Walker swings at bad pitches all of the time. He swings at balls out of the zone 34% of the time. That is 21st worst in MLB. And when he does swing at those pitches out of the zone, he only makes contact with 42% of the time, which is 16th worst in baseball. So why would you? He's going to swing at it over a third of the time if you throw it out of the zone. He's going to swing and miss almost 50% of the time at that ball. So why would you ever throw him a pitch in the zone? Or what? You definitely throw him less than 50% of your pitches in the zone because you don't have to.
Yeah.
He swings about 50% of the time in total, which is just far too much for everything I just said. For reference, and I'll note this, that Lars Nootbaar is one of the best in baseball at this. But for reference, Lars swings less than 37% of the time. So Walker is taking more chances than he should. He's swinging at bad pitches. He's not making contact with those pitches, and he's really not making contact enough. So I think, if I were to prescribe, and I'm sure that this is not a revelatory to the Cardinals or Jordan Walker or anything like that. I'm sure they have all these numbers plus more. But really, he needs to just stop swinging the damn bat. He needs to sit there and honestly just look for that fastball down the middle. And I think needs to start there and move on. You also, I think you noted before we started recording that he's swinging at the first, or he's not swinging at the first pitch anymore. It's just, it seems like either he's not seeing the ball, he's in his head, he's overthinking it, he's underthinking it. But the fact of the matter, every one of those numbers, it spells a terrible approach at the plate. And that's why what's his WRC plus? He's a 45 WRC plus. He is minus 10 offensive WAR. Minus 0.0.
Negative 0.7 overall.
You can't be successful with all of those plate discipline metrics. It's impossible.
Yeah, and I am glad that the Cardinals have continued to play him through all of this, including in this winning streak. But the reality is, if this team is going to actually be competitive and sort of flip a switch and decide we're going to start making 2025 decisions rather than 2025 and beyond decisions, he's the first to go. Now, not necessarily like out of the organization, but he's the first to drop out of the lineup. You're pulling him out and you're looking at a Koperniak or there's several options, or putting Donnie out and left and giving Gorman the extended run that we want. Something like that is going to happen and probably will be sooner than later. I still think he needs to be up there, and I want to see them give him this extended run. But yeah, it's bad swings. We can see it just watching it too, right? He just goes up there and he swings so hard and he misses so frequently. It's interesting too. Like, he's been doing this thing this year where at 2 strikes, he always calls timeout as the pitch clock is going down. He takes a step, he takes a breather, and it like really indicates he's like, he's. That to me says he's really thinking about like an approach. He has an approach. It's like, is he just bad at his approach at executing his effort, or is it he needs to change it? I don't know. That's for the hitting coach to decide, but it's absolutely bad decision making. And the reality is I don't like the Cardinals will make a decision at some point, probably in the near future, around giving him those daily at bats. And he even has been sitting a little bit more recently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, again, the encouraging thing is that when he is making contact, he's hitting the ball hard. There's not like it's almost partially good news that it's just a mental switch that probably needs to happen, because once it
or he just doesn't see the ball.
That's what you
like,
worry about.
Is
if he's just not seeing the ball.
Is it literally a physical thing?
Yeah. Like, does he need an eye test? Like, is this a Tommy Pham type situation where he just needs to find the right contacts, or, I don't know what it is, but it's not physical.
Yeah. But it's
mental.
also, you talked about, you set this up about resetting expectations for Jordan Walker. And I think that to some degree, he's had unfair expectations from the very beginning. I mean, we've blasted the Cardinals about this for a while now, about within 2 months of his call up, they had a Jordan Walker bobblehead day and, all this stuff. And everyone's like 40 home runs. And it's almost all of that was because he's a big guy who swings hard, right? Like, his minors didn't really, and he's not ever really been super successful at the minor league level either, except for the lower minors. And so it's, all of this has been placed on him because he's a big dude who hit ball hard, right? So I have said it for a while now, like, it's the most common thing with guys this big is they take a long time to mature at the major league level. I know we talked about this relatively recently, but like Aaron Judge, the ideal, the Hall of Fame version outcome of a massive human playing baseball who can also run very well. Well, he was 28 before he really clicked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
27.
Yeah. I mean, big players just take a longer time. It's kind of how it is.
Yeah. Walker's 22 still, so give him 6 more years before he really clicks. It would be still within expectations. I think the ideal version of this guy at this level was a guy who, manages a pretty good batting average, and the ball goes over the wall every once in a while because he hits it so damn hard. Now, we haven't seen anything close to that, but this idea that he was just going to pop up, hit over 300 with 40 bombs and all that, is just unfair and unrealistic. It's just not how baseball go.
Yeah, and obviously he's playing the best competition he's ever played, and they're taking advantage of his approach, and it's a snowball. Like, they're not going to start grooving you pitches because they're just going to continue to take advantage of your weaknesses until you either adjust or you're out of the league. And I think he'll adjust. I think he'll be fine, but it's going to be slower.
Yeah, they don't say like, oh man, this guy's having a really rough season, I'll take it light on him and I'll just groove him some fastballs, he'll get out. It's like, no, he's an easy out, just throw him some junk outside the zone and he'll swing and it'll be an easy out. And you're like, all right, cool, easy out. I'll follow the playbook.
Yeah. But yeah, poor Jordan Walker. Maybe this, even just this conversation, will light a fire.
Well, we know he's out there listening.
I hope he's playing baseball right now. He's not listening to us live, right?
This is crazy. I just looked. I'm watching. I've just pulled the game up. He's got a little headset.
Jordan, that is so dumb. Don't do that, man. That is bad.
Jordan. Yeah. Actually, Harper just hit a double to him. So I'm glad he was still able to corral the ball.
Nice catch, buddy.
So yeah. All right. Anything else about this week of baseball you want to talk about?
No. I know we ended on a bit of a sour note, but it's been great. The Cardinals are playing great. The defense is fun. The team is fun. Lars Nootbaar, Wilson Contreras, Nado. Let's keep going, boys.
Yeah. Today's an interesting test. Doubleheader against one of the better teams, but a team they have beaten already once this year. So, all right. Well, we are going to talk about the upcoming series and some league news. Fair bit of league news this week, including some big hot topics. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But before we get to that, we want to remind our listeners that this show is supported by listeners just like you. You, right there. I see you.
Steve.
I'm watching you.
Carla.
Steve.
Timothy.
Greg.
It's like you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brittany.
Mm-hmm. Brittany.
Thomas.
If your name is Brittany and you're listening to the show, please
Shout
reach
out to my
us. We would
Britneys
love
out
to
there.
know.
Let's go.
Yeah, we love a Brittany, don't we, folks? You can check out the Patreon at patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you appreciate the time and effort that we put into bringing the show to you every week, we'd appreciate you considering joining the Patreon. Just a couple bucks a month. It adds up. We use the money to ensure that the show looks good, sounds good, gets to you every week. And whatever extra money we end up with, we just put back into the show, trying to get more listeners and just make the community better. And we love the community that we have now, and you can be a part of it by joining the Patreon. Members of the Patreon get access to the private Discord server. It's called the Bird Scored. It's basically like a private chat for the members of the community, and we're just having a good time in there. We're posting updates right as they happen. We're talking about the games as they happen. We got different channels for different subjects, off topic as well. Just a bunch of cool people. I want to sincerely apologize for making any reference to them being like the Howard Stern fan base. Sometimes you just get going on a riff. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking extemporaneously for an hour and a half every week, you say some dumb shit.
But maybe if they didn't act the way they act, I wouldn't have to do that sometimes. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. You can also leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or tell your friends and family. It really does help, especially right now. Cardinals, hey, Brittany, Cardinals are having a good week, huh? Yes, Grandpa. Here, let me grab your iPhone and subscribe you to Talking About Birds. We know everyone's out there talking about the birds.
I feel like we haven't plugged this in a while. Grab somebody else's credit card and sign up for the Patreon. Just commit a crime. Go for it. We encourage it.
Yeah. Steal phones, subscribe to the podcast, join the Patreon. You can cash at me.
No.
I didn't say my real one for a reason, but you can find it online. All right, Hambone, where else can people find us on?
Yeah, we're on all the socials. We're on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok at Talking About Birds. Come look at our faces over there. You can listen to the show on Spotify if you prefer to do that. If you do, give us a tap on those stars. 5 stars only, baby. We are on YouTube. You can watch this podcast on YouTube if you're a freak. Or you can listen to it on YouTube and comment and like it and share it from there. You can find all of that information, t-shirts, podcasts, whatever, at talkingaboutbirds.com. Of course, you can email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. That's talkaboutbirds, not talking, talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And of course, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
That's right, 848-48-BIRDS. All right, Hambone. So after finishing up this series against the Phillies, we got a fun one. It's always fun when the Cardinals go across Highway 70 and take on the Kansas City Royals. We got a series against the Royals. Always a fun time, a fun rivalry. Royals are a pretty good team. They've got, I think, top 3 baseball player in the league in Bobby
I'd
Witt.
say in the world,
and a
Nate.
whole bunch of good. You know what? That's a bold take that I'm willing to get behind. Bobby Witt, top 3 in the world at baseball. And a whole lot of pieces around him. How are you feeling about the Royals?
The Royals are a pretty good team. I don't think there's any team that has a player more important to them than Bobby Witt Jr. and the Kansas City Royals, but they have other guys too. Vinny Pasquantino is having a nice year. Salvador Perez still hits the ball over the wall. Maikel Garcia, Nathan, is having a really nice year. He's doing all kinds of stuff.
He's a guy I've talked about him a little bit over the past couple of years. He's one of those guys that the underlying metrics was saying he has more power than his output would indicate. He hits the ball really hard, and he is lightning quick. So some of that's starting to show for him.
This is a team they're pushing in. They are trying to be a competitive team. They are in the Central, which isn't very good. And they have the firepower and the Bobby Witt Jr. to be better. They have, their bench is filled with veterans. And I really like their starting rotation is massively underrated. I think the Cardinals are going to draw Cole Ragans, who I think is one of the better left-handers in MLB right now, on the Friday game.
Yeah, they just stole an ace from the
Insane.
Rangers for 3 months of Aroldis
Crazy.
Chapman. Yeah.
What a trade. Seth Lugo will be on the Saturday game, and then our old buddy Michael Wacha is going to be pitching the Sunday game, which should be pretty fun. Wacha's had a nice second half of his career. And just for a shout out to, we're not going to see him, but Chris Bubich has been having a really, really good year.
He's been yet another reliever returning to the rotation and is excelling in it. Now, to be fair, too, on the flip side, this team has gotten a little lucky. They only have a +7 run differential. Their expected outcome is way closer to 500 than they are right now. So they've won some close games, and they have an okay bullpen, and their starters are pretty good. So they maybe outperformed a little bit, but I guess maybe we see that a little bit sometimes with the Cardinals too. But I think that's a pretty well matched series, and then you add in the whole rivalry thing. It should be a fun few games.
I also want to call out really quickly the back end of their bullpen. Carlos Estevez is closing out games for them now, and Lucas Ursedge.
I've never actually heard it said out.
Well, they're both really good.
Ursig? Yeah.
They're both really good.
Ursig,
and this is it's a tough team. They're fast. They have good defense. They hit the ball over the wall. Looking forward. Also, I just like their ballpark. And it's always fun to play the Royals.
Yeah. Well, after that, we were talking about the AL Central. The Cardinals stick with the AL Central and go to a team that is leading the league in run differential. They have a +85. And that is your Detroit Tigers.
Yeah. They're a good team. They are, I think, shocking a lot of people with how good they are, but maybe we shouldn't be shocked. They have Kerry Carpenter, who has a lot of pop. Gleyber Torres has found himself and has been a very good hitter. I'm a huge fan of Riley Green. I think he is a very, very good left-handed hitter and a decent outfielder. I think the funnest story over there right now is the resurgence of, or not even resurgence, I guess just the breakout of Spencer Torkelson, and then a resurgence of Javi Baez, who was their center fielder. Both of them doing things that making them some of the best players in baseball right now. I don't know how real the Javi Baez thing is, but the Torkelson thing seems real. It seems like he's here.
I agree with you 100%. Spencer Torkelson seems to have made the adjustments necessary, and I think he is and will be that slugging first baseman that we kind of always thought he would be. Another example of give these young guys a few years in the league to figure it out. That's how most people progress. Yep. So I think he's legit and will be for a long time. Javi Baez, I am of the opinion that this is a very fun and hot streak for Javi Baez, who swings wildly and hits the ball hard. But if you look at anything underlying, you will see no changes from what he's been doing for the last handful of years. And he's just doing really well right now. So I don't know. He was a really successful player for a while. We all remember him way back when. Maybe he's found it again. He's got a high risk, high reward approach. And he's certainly reaping the rewards right now. So we'll see how long it sticks. But there's no indicator that this is a different anything than what he's been doing for years now.
He's currently rocking a .398 batting average on balls in play. So maybe that will start to regulate once the Cardinals come to town and it all relaxes. Yeah. Looks like the Cardinals are going to draw their fifth starter, Keter Montero, who's actually had, in limited time, has had a pretty nice start to his big league season and career, really. And then the Cardinals are going to draw Tarek Skubal, who I believe is the best pitcher in baseball. Right. And I don't know if you've just seen his starts recently. I mean, it's 101 at the top of the zone with the nastiest breaking ball you've ever seen. He is disgusting.
He good. Yeah, I haven't looked too much at where the race would be right now, but he's certainly contending for back-to-back Cy Young,
Yeah.
right?
And then game 3, Nathan, we're going to see our old buddy Jack Flaherty coming back to town.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Kind of quietly being very good for the Detroit Tigers.
Will he get a standing ovation? Will he get a round of applause? Are people going to care?
I would be very surprised if he doesn't get I know that there's a section of the fan base that had their problems with him, but I don't believe that's a majority. And he never really had his peak here as a Cardinal, but
2019.
he was still an important
member 2019, Nathan.
That's true. That's true. So he was an important part of the team for an interesting period of Cardinal baseball, and the Cardinal fans, and this I think is a compliment, have given far louder responses for far less impactful players than Jack Flaherty.
That is true.
And I'd be pretty disappointed if it's not a very warm welcome. Yeah. But I know there's that underlying thing about, him, and people don't like players sharing their opinions and things like that. But I agree, or I disagree about that completely. Yeah. So if I were at the game, I'd be standing and clapping.
Another player that's coming back home, you may remember John Brebbia is in the bullpen for the Tigers right now, and one of my favorite non-star Cardinals of the past decade or so of baseball. He's just the best.
He's still out there doing it. He's out there doing it. So good for him.
Tigers, that should be Royals. I feel like the Cardinals can match up pretty well against the Royals. The Tigers, they've been good.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series. Based on record, arguably the hardest team the Cardinals have played this year. But the Mets and the Phillies are really awesome too. So, but All right, let's segue into some league news, Hambone. I know we got a big one to start. A touchy, fiery subject.
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah, we do.
Kick it off.
Major League Baseball rules that permanent ineligibility ends at death. And I'm going to read a statement, a letter to the attorney. This is from Rod Manfred to Pete Rose's family attorney. Rob Manfred.
What a fun fucking dinner party. Rob Manfred and Pete Rose's attorney.
Yeah. So Manfred wrote, "In my view, a determination must be made regarding how the phrase permanently ineligible should be interpreted in light of the purposes and policies behind Rule 21. Rule 21, which are 1, protect the game from individuals who pose a risk to the integrity of the sport by prohibiting the participation of such individuals, and 2, create a deterrent effect that reduces the likelihood of future violations by others. In my view, once an individual has passed away, the purposes of Rule 21 have been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list." So he goes on to say that he's not trying to basically go against the precedent set by other commissioners in the past, and he believes this is consistent, and so on and so forth. I personally have a lot of opinions on this, but I just talked a lot. So, Nate, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this decision from our fearless leader, Rob Manfred.
Whatever, man. Whatever you got to do. I permanent is permanent to me. Like, I like that we're nitpicking on permanent. Right. It's not permanent now. It is upon death. Does it change anything about the integrity of it that they can, once you die, you actually can get in the Hall of Fame? I don't think so. I guess you avoid Pete Rose. Ha, fuck you guys, I was right all along. You avoid that sort of thing where he's gonna finger point at the Hall of Fame a commencement speech or whatever. I mean, he still technically has to get voted in, right? Like they have
Right.
to do some sort of veterans committee
that
or
needs
whatever.
to be noted. No one has been voted in. They are just allowed to be voted in.
Yeah.
And like, will the Hall of Fame put them on the ballot?
He,
There's all these questions we don't have the answer to.
Yeah. But I came to after I was like online one night and I watched like 3 or 4 videos of guys just staring down the barrel of the camera, just screaming one way or another about their opinion on Pete Rose and the Hall of Fame eligibility. And I realized that I just don't care that much. At one point I really did. I felt very strongly that he should not be in the Hall of Fame. And while that is my default position still, it's whatever, man.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Just fine. You know, like it's probably not going to change anything. I am a supporter of Shoeless Joe Jackson getting in. So I guess like if there's, take a win with a loss or whatever. I know this isn't a particularly spicy take, but I'm like, whatever, fine. Just get it's done. And I don't necessarily agree with upon death, you're no longer a threat to the integrity of the game, but whatever. What's your take?
Yeah, I think that the Hall of Fame is all about legacy, right? It is all about you being remembered forever in this sport. And I think forever is most importantly after your death. Most of the Hall of Famers are dead, and we remember them because they were elected into the Hall of Fame. So I think that if you've done something to make yourself ineligible for the Hall of Fame, but you now know the president has been set that you can be elected once you pass away, it completely removes the deterrent because in 100 years,
for some people, that's
when everyone's dead, you'll be there. And people won't talk about what happened with Shoeless Joe or Pete Rose because it'll be 100 years and nobody will care about that, but your name will be there. So I think that Rob Manfred's implication that it is a sufficient deterrent to do it while you're alive or to remove it once you've passed on is total bullshit because this is all about legacy. This is all about being etched in stone. And I think that it sets a dangerous precedent. When are we going to, like, you can do whatever you want. And when you die, if you're a good enough player, you'll get elected. Now, they still have to be elected, like they said, but I think that he's not understanding the word of permanent. He is bending the word a little bit. And I think it does matter. I think that people like this, there's also a ton of other character issues that Pete Rose has. And I won't get into the gritty details, but, young women, Ray Fosse, just general human being. And I personally, there is a character clause in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's fine to lean on that. I don't think we should celebrate total fucking assholes. Pete Rose clearly was that.
Yeah. Credibly accused of sexual assault, and when confronted by a female reporter, he said, "Get over it." It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So cool guy.
So
cool guy.
I just totally disagree with Rob Manfred's point of view here, and I don't think it really makes sense. And if the president or if politics got involved in this at all, it makes me even more mad. I find it all very, very silly.
Well, we cannot forget that Trump pardoned him
of things,
the federal crime
of things and stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think maybe I care about it a little bit more than you. I feel pretty strongly about that. I think it's stupid, and Rob Manfred is, obviously just a tone deaf lizard. And I can't wait for him to be on the other side. What a great day that'll be.
Yes, future Hall of Famer Rob Manfred. Aren't all commissioners by design? They all get in the Hall of Fame.
I don't know. I don't care to know. Who cares? Move on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's move on.
The Red Sox and Rafael Devers are quarreling over first base. Have you read about this, Nate? Have you seen this in the news?
Yes, I have. And
you have a hot take.
So if you haven't seen it, the because of Tristan Casas's injury, the Red Sox
his
have
back exploded. No, his knee exploded. His knee exploded.
Yeah, and they've asked Devers if he'd be willing to play first base, and he is loudly and publicly shitting all over the Red Sox organization for asking him to play first base after he shat all over them for asking him to stop playing third base. And I think that there's some clear signs of the Red Sox organization being bad at communicating and setting expectations with their players. So I think that is a big part of this. But man, I cannot like. To me, this is Devers just continuing to showcase what a big old ding dong he is. I mean, like I understand that he may not be comfortable playing first base. It may be not what he even wants to do. But he's also one of the highest paid players on this team. He's supposed to be one of the best players on this team. He's supposed to be one of the leaders on the team. And for generations, players have been asked to play positions that were different than their own. And maybe they weren't the most confident in it, but they didn't go running and screaming to the press, complaining about it. That to me is the situation here that really stands out. If Devers doesn't want to do it, talk to the coaches, talk to the general manager, explain maybe I want a month of reps or whatever it is. But to just go shit all over them and like be mad that they're, asking him to do something a little different than what they had asked him to do before, it just makes him come off even more selfish and even more tone deaf to the broader purpose of building a team. Like every other player in the world would be excited when the team signs Alex Bregman. Devers is a bad third baseman. He has to know that. He might not feel that way, but the numbers show it. He should have been excited when they brought in Bregman. He should be excited to get to play first base. It will help extend his career to actually be able to be out on the field. It'll improve his numbers, even if he's mediocre at it. It'll be better for his numbers to be a mediocre first base than just a DH. Like, it's all better for him. He's just kind of a whiny little baby, I guess. That's my take on it.
Well, I'm gonna counterpoint you, and I'm curious to hear what you think of this. I think, well, first off, I think it should be noted, you said he's the highest paid player, and it should be noted, 10 years, $313 million. We're talking about big boy money. Big boy money.
He's the face of the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that does need to be stated. I think this is a problem of expectation setting and communication from Craig Breslow specifically. And I think that this is a little tinfoil hatty, but I almost wonder if Breslow is wanting to move on from Rafael Devers because of his lack of flexibility.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
Well,
I would want to get him out of there. He sounds like a shitty team player.
I think the problem is, like I said, I think it's communications and expectation settings. I think when they signed Alex Bregman, they should have told Rafael Devers as soon as possible. We're talking to the Cardinals about Nolan Arenado, and we're in conversations with Alex Bregman. So just so you know, you should start working out at first base. You should start thinking about DHing. You should start maybe taking reps in the outfield, but just keep that in mind. That's what we're thinking. They sign Alex Bregman. They tell Rafael Devers, you're a DH, put down your glove, just worry about hitting. What they should have been doing is still practicing him, teaching him first base, keeping him warm at third while DHing. They weren't doing that. They told him to put his glove down. They essentially told him that he is such a bad defensive player that he shouldn't even consider it. And I'm sure that Rafi Devers, who is 28 years old and maybe not the most mature person in the world, took that and was pretty offended by that. He had a bad start to the season. He's been crushing it since then. Costas goes down for the rest of the year, and they say, "Ooh, can you pick your glove up and learn first baseman while you're, in the big leagues right now?" And I think Rafi Devers is kind of thinking, well, I thought I wasn't a good enough defender to do that. Why weren't we training me at first base this whole time? Why wasn't that being considered? And he's saying no to the idea of it. So while I don't think he's handled it super well, I think that the Red Sox and Alex Cora and Craig Breslow involved in this have handled it even worse, which has led to your star player being mad, which has led to him being pissed off in the media, trashing you in the media, and ultimately being unflexible. So I think the Red Sox are dumb for handling it this way. I don't think Rafi is totally not to blame, but the fact that they weren't doing what they should have been doing and working him out at other positions, teaching him other positions, is stupid.
Yeah. I started my rant with saying this all stems from bad communication from the Red Sox. So I agree with you completely. But I don't think that is like a coverall excuse for you to go and be a big whiny baby to the media about a overall like pretty standard ask that every baseball player goes through multiple times in their career, where where they have to switch a position because the team functionality has changed, the team makeup has changed. And so like, I don't know, I get it, but two wrongs don't make a right here.
No.
And he's the one who's choosing to go public about his little baby feelings. And so I'm like, well, I don't know. I suspect that they also probably want to trade him, but who wants to acquire a big fat baby who won't do what the team asks?
I bet you, Nate,
and is also really, really bad at most of the job other than
I bet if he gets traded, he'll go play first base. I think this is a toxic situation. And I somebody pointed this out earlier in the week. I'm sure that when that $313 million deal was being negotiated, if they were like, hey, Rafi, if we ever need you to play first base, you do that, right? If we ever need you to DH, you do that, right? If we ever need you to play left field, you do that, right? I'm sure when $313 million was on the line, he would say, yes, sir, absolutely, whatever you need.
Yes.
I will sweep the hallways of the clubhouse if you need me to.
It doesn't sound that way, though, Hambone. It sounds like he probably felt like he got slighted and should have gotten more. And he was probably a little whiny baby about his $313 million contract, too. What you're saying is how most humans would handle this situation. But everything he's done indicates to me that that's not how he handles these sorts of things.
The psychology of baseball players is really weird. I think Rafi also probably thinks, well, you guys won a World Series with me playing third base, and now I'm not good enough there. Like, he's obviously, there's some immaturity and there's some short-sightedness and maybe some media training lacking. But it has given us something interesting to talk about. So I appreciate Rafi Devers for that. All right, let's move along to some more exciting news. Paul Skeens has agreed to pitch for Team USA in the 2026 WBC.
We love USA right now, don't we, folks? There's nothing I'm more excited about right now than slapping USA across my chest and screaming for my country. What a set of values we're representing that I can't wait to share on the world stage. Right. That all aside, of course, I'm a huge fan of the World Baseball Classic, and I am very, very excited about it. And the biggest problem every team faces is getting the biggest problem Team USA faces is getting legitimate starting pitching, because most of them are pitching for the MLB and won't threaten their careers for a few games. It's almost always like your Adam Wainwrights, your guys like that who are 38 and it's a prestige thing. So getting Paul Skeens, I mean, we've seen mock-ups of the lineup, Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt, maybe a Mike Trout if he's healthy. The lineup will not be a problem. It's going to be maybe the best lineup in baseball history. It's just, are you going to have a better pitcher than Brady Singer? And having Paul Skeens is incredibly exciting, even if he's only going to throw 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah, I think, maybe the new thing is to find aces on teams that are not going to be competitive, so at least they can have a little competitive window to start the season off.
Yeah, well, and this is a broader topic for another time, but maybe the only competitive baseball Paul Skeens gets to pitch in 2026.
I bet he cannot wait to get out of that rookie contract with the Pirates. I am sure he is champing at the bit to get out of there.
No, so there's that. But I mean, like, what is the 2026 season even going to look like with the CBA and all that?
Yeah. Oh, God, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. Don't put me down, Nate. I'm excited about Team USA right now. The Yankees utility player Oswaldo Cabrera fractures his ankle sliding into home. Did you see this play, Nate?
I did see this play. Rough play. Weird slide. Broke the ankle.
Two broken bones on the playing field in the past couple of weeks. What the hell's going on?
It doesn't. Yeah, they had to. You never like to see an ambulance on the field, and they did that. And I don't know much about him, but digging into this a little bit, like not necessarily the best player on the field, but definitely a fan favorite. One of those guys, the sort of the juice guys, like just everyone loves, high energy, all that. So big blow to the Yankees from a fan perspective. And, he wasn't bad, but he was not a star of the team. But real big bummer.
My favorite part of this story was that after he's in a ball around home plate, he looks to Aaron Judge and he asks Aaron Judge, clearly knowing that his ankle is snapped, "Did I score?" And I just love that. That is the kind of guy you want on your team.
Did I score? That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Poor guy. But I love that. That is some gritty guttyism right there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Rich Hill, 45 years old at this point, signs with the Royals on a minor league deal. He is going to be in the big soon. And it's just, I love having Rich Hill back. He will be the oldest player in baseball by a couple of years. And all I want is for this to keep happening. I want it to never stop. I love Rich Hill, and I can't wait to see his big league, his 2025 big league debut.
Yeah, nothing really to add. He just keeps doing it. Dick Mountain is back. 5 more years.
Yeah.
5 more years. I want like a Jamie Moyer, like we're 48, 49-year-old guy up there,
Yeah.
It's fun. Why not?
And the style of him doing it kind of halfway, a quarter into the season or whatever, I love it. He's just doing that Rich Hill thing, and you love to see it.
Yep.
All right, a couple of firings around baseball pretty early, and I think pretty silly. But the Rockies have decided to move on from Bud Black and Mike Redmond. Their bench coach was also part of this firing. And the Pirates fired manager Derek Shelton. Nate, how do you feel about these moves?
The Rockies one, I know. So you will have a more informed take on this than me as a Rockies fan, but this is the same team that they've been for. How long has he been the manager?
10 plus years, somewhere around there.
10
been a while.
Yeah, I know they're on pace to break the White Sox record from last year from worst season of all time. But fundamentally, this is just the Rockies baseball. There's not really, the results are worse now, but this isn't anything, he's the same guy. It's not Bud Black that's the problem. So I think it's funny to fire him now and to fire him at all. Like, he's been there for so long. Just the season, let him coach out the season and retire or whatever he's going to do. It's not like they're going to turn around the team in 2025 with a new coach who's going to come in and fire up the squad and bring it back. So I thought it was funny and seems unnecessary. But I don't know, maybe it's time to turn the page, Hambone. The Pirates one, Paul Skeens said it. He's like, dude, we're 12-26. This is going to happen. Someone's going to pay for it. And it turned out to be him or something like that. This one felt a little more like in line with generally how baseball go early in the season, but I wasn't too surprised by this one.
Yeah. To talk about the Rockies side of it, they've basically been in a free fall since like 2021. They moved on from Arenado. They moved on from Trevor Story. They stopped kind of bringing in free agents that made any difference. Charlie Blackmon is now retired. They have no pitching. I feel very confident that they're going to squander the first few years of Chase Dolander's career. And they're just a poorly ran team. They don't have enough of anything. They don't have enough player development. They don't have enough analytics. They don't have enough on-field staff. They don't have enough coaches in the frickin' dugout. They don't do anything right. So you got to blame Bud Black for it. I don't think Bud Black is a good manager. He probably was, but it's not Bud Black's fault. This is organizational rot that has happened.
Yeah.
And I feel very strongly that the Rockies are 5 years away from being competitive if they start being smart tomorrow. So
and there's very little evidence to suggest that the smartness is gonna turn it, change hands.
They're completely up a creek. And I see no end in sight. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, this is 100% on Ben Cherington. They have arms. Now, of course, it's a bummer that who was their starting pitcher that went down early this season? I just forgot his name. Jared Jones. It's a bummer that Jared Jones went down. But coming into the season, you had Jared Jones, Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller at the top of your rotation. Your bullpen is decent. You just needed to add to your team a little bit. Instead, you go and sign Adam Frazier and Tommy Pham, and you expect things to turn well for you. It's just not going to happen. You have a terrible offense. Your pitching is slightly hurt. So this is Ben Cherington's fault, and even more importantly, Bob Nutting's fault. And to get rid of Derek Shelton just it's a joke. It's not his fault. It's look in the mirror.
Yeah. Well, did you see that? Did you see that report that the Pirates are one of the most profitable teams in baseball?
I think I was talking about this in the Bird Score. They just pocket their revenue sharing. Bob Nutting is a guy who made all of his money off the newspaper business, bought the team. That other business isn't going very well, so his sole income is just sitting here raking in money from the other owners, putting out a shit product, having a great ballpark, and he has no intention of selling because it's his source of income. I think this is. I think I said this in the Bird Score. I think he's the most problematic owner in baseball because he has absolutely no intention of fielding a competitive team at any point. This is his business model. Which is bad for the sport. And then you're having these careers wasted or parts of their careers wasted. And, Paul Skeens is the most glaring example of that. So, fuck Bob Nutting. I couldn't say it louder. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, agree 100%.
That's all I got for league news this week.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode with a little check-in. Hambone, we're basically a quarter of the way into the regular season.
We are doing it.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. And so we do this about quarterly as far as the season goes. We check in on the game we play every year. It's the Draft Day Heroes and Hatchlings edition. This time I'll remember to put the little song in. Assuming I did, thank you to our associate sound producer, Chris Phillips, for that song. So if you are new to the show, at the beginning of the season, we do a draft. We take 3 players from the 26-man, the opening day 26-man, and 3 players from outside of the 6-man or 26-man. It can come from anywhere. We do a draft. We go back and forth, and whoever has the highest FWAR at the end of the season of all their players combined is the winner. And this really ultimately serves as a nice little way to check in on some of the top players on the team and see how things are trending. So I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to run through all the players we both selected, and then I'm going to go over their WAR pretty quickly. But I'm going to say our players first, Hambo, and I want to see if you have a guess on who's leading, assuming you didn't scroll down and look at my little list here.
Who's leading?
Who's leading between me and you?
I'm going to guess because of my Arenado and Nootbaar pick that I am leading, because those have been 2 of the best players on the team.
Let's see. So your draft was Nolan Arenado, Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, Jose Fermin, Thomas Saggese, and Riley
Forgot
O'Brien.
I had Brendan Donovan too. God, I'm good at this.
My picks were Sonny Gray,
good,
Mason Wynn, Ivan Herrera,
but good,
Michael McGreevy, Quinn Matthews, and Tim Hentz.
Wow.
So, run down the numbers. Nolan Arenado is actually not leading the pack, but is close to, with 1.4 FWAR. Lars Nootbaar, 1.1. Brendan Donovan, 1.6.
Oh, wow. I don't think I realized that.
Everyone in our little game. Jose Fermin, rocking a cool 0. Thomas Saggese, 0.4. And the only negative on the board, Riley O'Brien, negative 0.1. A total accrual of 4.4 FWAR. Fun fact, Ben, your entire team last year that you drafted put up 5 over the entire season. So we are already seeing a considerably better team than we saw last year.
That is good. That is good for everyone.
Yes. My picks. Sonny Gray, 0.9. Mason Wynn, 1.2. Wow. Ivan Herrera, 0.9.
Wow, that's insane.
Michael McGreevy, Michael McGreevy, 0.2. And then Tink and Quinn have not made debuts this year. I'm becoming increasingly skeptical about them pitching in the major leagues in 2025. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but just kind of where it seems to be heading right now. So, Hambone, you had a 4.4 total. I have a 3.2.
Wowie wee wow.
So,
outpacing you by quite a bit,
yes.
Mr. Nathan.
By a full war already. We'll see. Obviously, I had some injury issues with both Mason and Yvonne. And Sonny Gray, as we said, has had some mixed results, though we're both very confident about the long run. But obviously, Arenado returning to form and Brendan Donovan becoming one of the most valuable utility players in baseball.
Let's go.
Is giving you quite a leg up.
I'm sure that second base defense is helping too. He's been great.
Well, yeah, because he's obviously playing very well offensively, but he's not like hitting a ton of home runs or anything like that typically drive a high WAR. So I think he's definitely earning it on both sides. Yeah. So we'll continue to track. But
you suck.
So far,
I win.
I'd still 3.2. Your whole team last year did 5 total. Yeah. So
we're having more fun.
I think. Well, so far, I think we outside. Neither of us chose Wilson Contreras because of our concern over first base defense and how that accrues WAR. But outside of that, we've seemingly basically picked the top 6 players of the team outside of Matthew Liberatore, which neither of us took.
Yeah, so. I'm happy to be wrong on that one though. That's been great.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, yeah. All right, well that's going to do it for this week's episode. We'll see if the streak continues. As we record right now, it is a tie game, 0-0 in the 7th with the Cardinals and the Phillies. So I don't know. We'll see. Herrera just hit a double.
Let's go, baby.
That's exactly where we are right now. So good luck, Cardinals. And remember, check out all of our links at talkingaboutbirds.com. And until next week, Cardinals need more catchers. Okay.
Talking about